in fact, one of the things I want to come on to next is I just want to get back to that MSP conversation for a minute.
Yeah.
So, so with the MSP side of things, you guys had that in place, legacy program, legacy technology, managing just the kind of contract labor side of it. You've then taken it in-house and just, massively executed with regards to the change management and transformed it, brought it under procurement, centralized it, and you're off and running now and you're going
Yes.
great guns. What would your advice be? And I appreciate you kind of highlighted originally when you were saying, look, what they were doing was transactional, and that was not what I needed. But if you had advice for MSPs, for the companies that where this is going to be the best option for them to have an MSP help
Mhm.
them through this process, what would you want to see within those MSPs, and what advice would you give those MSPs?
Yeah, I had a lot to say on this lately, and because I feel like there has to be a shift. There's a lot in the contingent labor space, and this might be controversial, but I feel like there's a lot of we got to do it this way because this is the way we've always done it, and they're
Yeah.
not necessarily people aren't necessarily saying that, but their actions display that to me. That's my perception of there's not a good reason. Like, and I'm a big questioner. You probably picked up on that, but I am going to ask you maybe 10 questions. Like I'm gonna until I get an answer. And this isn't on MSPs necessarily. This is on just industry wide. And I'm gonna be again controversial by saying that, but there's a bit of a staleness out there. I went to my first conference last summer and spoke at the conference. And good or bad, I feel like, we've gotten into a complacent place of how we manage our contingent labor programs. Everybody's hungry for something different, but nobody can kind of pinpoint or maybe get behind one thing that is going to drive the change. Um, I listen to people speak. And, again, good or bad, I just didn't really pick up on anything or anybody doing something or thinking a different way. I think it's super important in anything that we do to challenge, to be bold, to, you know, think of different ways of doing things. And that might be my personality and not the thing that people want to do, but I feel it's very important in order to anytime transform or affect change, you have to challenge sometimes things that people just have done for forever. And it sounds kind of basic, but it's one of those things that through this process I've learned that we tend to accept so many things in companies in general, not just contingent labor, but just in general, process wise, um, technology wise, um, standards wise or not standards, leadership wise. Like there's just so many things that we just accept. And I'm not that person. I feel very grateful to have inherited this and been able to look at it from a different lens. MSPs, I think, are in the same boat. I think they have to think about and challenge their peers, challenge what really is the right thing to do. If I'm an outsourced company, what is it that like not guess, not try to sell the next thing, like really just think about it from a strategic level. They claim to be I mean, MSPs pretty much claim to be or helpful in strategic ways. I didn't see that. Even in my RFP process, I didn't see it. And it's not that I only have experience with one MSP. I think that if you're going to add value, you got to add it in a way where you are brought in with the business and you kind of meld yourself into that company so that you understand. So many MSPs have teams that are running with five different companies or they're spread, beyond two companies. And I don't know how you really do a great job other than tactical work at that point or administrative work. Um, I remember the first QBR or the second QBR, I would say that I sat in with my MS. MSP, I stopped it. I stopped it and I said, I don't want to see the slideshow. Like, let's talk about what you can do for me or what we can do for each other. How are we going to partner in this? Because I didn't understand why I was just trying to be sold all these things. Like, I thought you were here to help, and be an extension of the team. And it's a fine line with like if with a leader like I'm trying to transform something. How do I utilize an MSP and be able to control that in a way that I need and it control is a horrible way to say it, but have a
Leverage
stake in
it, I guess.
yeah, leverage it maybe is the right thing. So I guess my point is MSPs, I think, are going to have to think outside the box more. And I think the best way I can say it is to be bold and to say, okay, no, we follow each other, right? They're doing this, so I'm going to do this, or but what can I do differently? What's out there that's different? How can I think outside of the norm, and how can I be of service? It may not look anything like it looks like today. I don't think it can look like it does today and survive. I think you have to evolve, and um, right now it just feels like everybody's in this place of being hungry. And I'm saying everybody, meaning customers, like companies, like me that run programs, plus the MSPs. Everybody's hungry for something different, but I don't know how bold people are being in doing so. So this is my general perception. It's my general, I don't know, opinion. I I don't know.
I,
It's gonna
I,
have
I
to
I love
change.
it. I mean, I think, what you're saying is there's an opportunity for disruption. There's an opportunity
Yeah.
for people to think differently, do things differently. Um, that 100% resonates with me as a tech provider in the services procurement space. For us, it's all about disrupting the old and doing things and thinking about services procurement in a different way. Um, and I think what it also brings in is it brings in that startup mentality. It comes back again to, hey, look, we're trying to solve a problem here. Don't just keep doing what we've always done. You'll get what you always got. Let's move
Mhm.
on and look at how we can do something new. And I do think there is a hunger in the market. And that's why I think it's very important for these sort of conversations where you can really get into the detail for people to hear about the challenges and hear about the things that have gone well and hear about how you made change happen and how you're planning to make that change continue in the future and where you're trying to get to. So from a tech perspective, from an in-house perspective, procurement versus HR, how you make the change happen, how that reflects on the external service providers, the MSPs, how that reflects on the supply chain. All these things are super important to get into the detail of, which is why I think it's so valuable to be able to have this kind of chat. And in terms of the disruption and the need for change, everybody knows how fast everything is changing now. Everybody knows how much this
Mhm.
disruption is happening in our daily lives, in our
Right.
work lives. It's never been as crazy and as fast as this
Right.
ever. So if there was ever a
Right.
time to for people to kind of like buckle up and get in for the ride and think in that way, now's got to be it.
For
Um,
sure.